Who am I?
The year was 1952. In the Hindu calendar, it was Nandananama Samvatsara. Mother was expecting her fourth child. Mother taught Satyam the fundamental principle about truth according to Hindu philosophy. She expanded on the meaning of the word Kala. She told him about the movements of the planets on which Kala depends. She explained to him about Khanda Kala, Akhanda Kala, and Mahakala. She went into minute detail on the real meaning of the word Kala. Mother said that in truth Kala and the Supreme Parabrahman are inseparable. She compared the two principles Mahakala and Mahakali. She also gave a brief introduction to the science of astrology. She correlated that with the philosophy of eternal truth. Kala is nothing but the waves that arise in the Parabrahman out of a desire to create, she said once during a conversation. That was not clear to Satya. He was not yet mature enough to understand. She described the natures of Purusha and Prakriti. This led directly to the topic of the Upanishads. As she entered into the topic of the Upanishads, Satyam began to see daylight in his understanding of truth. He understood what his mother had said about time and Brahman. Mother's method of teaching and Satyam's way of understanding were very special. What mother taught was very precise and brief. Normally she would not give any explanations. Occasionally she gave a brief explanation. Most often she would make a statement of fact or make an observation and then would remain silent. Satya did not disturb his mother with probing questions. Instead, he would remain silent and enter into a state of deep contemplation. Satya would cut himself off from contact with the outer world and carry on an internal discussion. He would experience the truth of the statements made by his mother. Satyam was an ekasantagrahi. He never needed to ask for anything to be repeated. Some days his mother would keep quiet and not tell him anything. On such days, he would not be able to sleep and would keep tossing about in bed. For a long time he struggled with the fundamental question,
Who am I? Who am I? Who am I?
The question always led to further questions. He never got the final answer. One night, as he pondered on this question, his thoughts went back to the day he was born.
My mother told me that when I was born, I had a rudraksha necklace and a saligrama necklace around my neck. She said that these were set in gold thread. If those were separate from my body, and if gold is a metal, well, my body has grown now, and if I had continued to have those necklaces on me, would they have grown along with my body? But metal is lifeless. It cannot grow. If it does not grow, and if I still had the necklaces on, then I would have been strangled as I grew up. Let me set aside this question for a while. Let me forget the fact that gold has no life. This body of mine is made up of the 5 elements, and in itself this also is lifeless. How can it grow then? What is the meaning of growing? I have grown. What is growing? What is change? At our front doorstep there was a stone slab, and now it is a different type of floor. Has the stone changed then? No, the stone hasn't changed. The old stone was broken, so it was replaced by a new stone. The 2 stones have no relation to each other. In that case, it is not a transformation. If that is so, that which undergoes change has to have 2 parts, one that is constant and the other that undergoes change. How can that be? I have grown and have transformed. Am I made up of 2? How can that be? Oh, mind, don't confuse me. Don't tease me, please. I have no connection with my body. When I am in deep sleep, I can see myself. I have no parts. Okay? If the body is lifeless, how can one say that it grows? Who am I?
The result of this inconclusive discussion on the fundamental question of who am I brought more complication and thoroughly confused the young mind of Satyanarayana. The intense urge to find an answer to the question and the frustration at not even finding a clue felt as if a rope was tightening around his neck, causing him to choke. Satyanarayana, coming out of the state of trance, woke up suddenly and started to desperately feel for the malas around his neck.
I feel something around my neck. It's the rudraksha necklace. It's the saligrama necklace.
But the words failed to come out. It was dawn. Satyanarayana had no strength to move. His father Shastri came into the room to wake him up. He had the shock of his life on seeing the condition of his son. He felt for the nadi.
It is Gandamala. Oh Lord Narsimha, please save my son.
In those days, Gandamala was a fatal disease and had no known cure. In deep distress, Shastri had but one option. It was to pray to Lord Narasimha. He prayed for the grace of his family deity, Ramagiri Narasimha Swami. He vowed to offer a pair of copper earrings to the Lord. He surrendered his son's fate at the feet of the Lord. Just then, Satya's mother Jayalakshmi was in the courtyard performing the morning puja to Mother Tulasi. She heard her husband's screams and said to herself,
"Were you entertaining thoughts about the necklaces you had on at your birth? That was not called for. You have no choice now but to go to the 12 sacred rivers, take a dip in each of them, and return."
Satya received the telepathic message. He decided to follow her instructions. Meanwhile, Jayalakshmi requested her husband to rather do japa than to sit and lament.
What's the use of weeping? Why don't you sit still and pray for the child and do your japa?
She knew that if Shastri were to examine the son again, it would end in chaos. Shastri followed her instruction obediently. It took nearly 24 hours for Satya to complete the journey, wherein he separated his causal body from his physical body and went with it to the 12 sacred rivers as instructed by his mother. When the causal body merged back with the physical body, the signs of the disease disappeared and Satya showed signs of recovery. Not knowing the real reason for recovery, Shastri felt overjoyed that God had answered his prayers. Shastri went along with his son to the family shrine and offered the copper earrings to the deity.